Okay, in this section of the website, I'm talking about my personal distance education philosophies. These are a series of opinionated essays that I wrote, and it's based on my personal experiences in the Master Distance Education program, combined with some other things that I've been exposed to throughout my entire career, papers that I've read. I also have a family full of secondary education teachers, so they're definitely an influence on me. And I've kind of combined that all together in order to form my opinion of where I stand on some pretty significant distance education issues. The first issue is what is a distance education fundamentalist? Throughout the time that I was in the Master's Distance Education program, I noticed that there's definitely a couple different degrees of people when you're talking about the philosophy of distance education. Of course, there's people that are opponents. They don't believe in distance education. They don't believe that it's going to work, and they're certainly entitled to their opinion. Back in like I said in one of the other sections, I think like the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of strange fads that were going on in the world of education. And I think that some of the older people that have been around in education for a longer period of time, they look at distance education and they kind of wonder about it because they remember like contract grading and some of the other things that used to happen that we really decided and they weren't effective, or we got rid of them. And I think that some of the people that are in that camp are kind of waiting for this distance education fad to pass. I don't believe that. I don't believe distance education is a fad. I think that, especially due to the development of better telecommunications and, like I said, about increased bandwidth and stuff like that, it's here to stay. There's no question in my mind. The next group of people is who I talked about, distance education fundamentalists. I think that these people are actually on the opposite side of that. They are so focused on distance education and advancing the cause, and they're so passionately defending it that sometimes I don't think that they stop to think about the social and the cultural impact of distance education. If you talk to like a high school principal, and I wrote it in this essay, you talk about a sociologist, something like that, you're gonna find that in the school setting there's this thing called the hidden curriculum. And the hidden curriculum, it's this skill set that you are getting from school, but it's not something that's quantifiable. You don't get an A in the hidden curriculum or a B or whatever. It's social skills, it's interpersonal skills, it's a variety of different things. Now, with distance education, I would argue that the hidden curriculum is different. It's not absent, but it's a completely different set of skills. I think that with distance education, you really have to become very self-reliant. You have to really have, I personally believe, more motivation than when you're in a live class. So the people that are going through distance education programs, they do have a different hidden curriculum skill set, I feel, as opposed to people who are in live classes. And the fundamentalists, I don't really feel that they touch on this enough. In some of the key literature that I've read, I mean, this is not even in there. It's absent from the mindset. Another thing that I talk about in here that I feel that the fundamentalists fail on is that Gravel Rumble had this theory called the Piranha effect, and basically what it says is that distance education universities don't have any boundaries, really. I mean, it's not like I don't want to go to that college because it's in California and I live in Ohio. It doesn't happen like that. As soon as you put a distance education university online, you're instantly in competition with all of the other distance education universities. Now, Rumble's theory is that because of that, the larger universities will end up gobbling up the little universities, and they'll combine and combine and combine, and almost, it doesn't really, I don't remember ever reading it, but it'll eventually get to the point where it's a monopoly. Well, my thought about this is, take that to an extreme. 20, 30 years down the road, I mean, really, if you look at capitalist models, what we're going to end up having is, I feel, if this continues, several super universities that are going to have a real serious monopoly, a world education, not just, the United States or whatever. And I think that that's something that we really have to take into consideration. So I think that with distance education, I'm a centrist. I believe that there's a lot of good applications for distance education, but just like anything else, it can be taken too far. I think that if we start using distance education to teach people how to do the kinesthetic skills like I talked about, I'm not sure that the quality of their education is going to be that great. And I realize that, this is kind of a centrist view. It's definitely, I don't really feel that it's kind of even a mainstream view as far as some of the stuff that we've learned in the program. But I really feel that empirically looking at everything, I think that this is the position that I want to take in the end after completing this degree. That distance education is a very valuable learning tool. There's a lot of really good things that it can do, but I think that it's going to get to a certain plateau, and then there's always going to be live education, there's always going to be distance education. They're both going to have excellent uses, but neither is ever going to really win this. That's my personal opinion on distance education and why I'm a centrist versus a fundamentalist.